love Mike Hanson Archives.
Hello again, folks. This is Mike Hanson from Mike Hanson Archives. And tonight we got a great show for you. Alex and Steve do a really good job on the Freedom Report tonight. I think this one is from from April of 1998. So it's a great show. But what I would love to ask your help, and I want to thank Alex for the channel space here on Infowars.com. It costs a lot of money for him to provide this service, kind of like a YouTube service on Infowars on band.video. So I really don't want to ask Alex for any money. So if any of y'all would love to help keep us on the air here, we would really appreciate it. What do we got? Venmo and PayPal and what else? And you can email Cammie right here. She's having her lunch right now. And you can email Cammie there and ask how you can help. And also we have a P.O. Box 481, Gonzales, Texas, 78629. Also, I would be glad if for a donation of $20 to send you a great t-shirt, since we're in the 2020s now where medical tyranny is the new police state. Come and make me with a shot. This is a great shirt here. Just call us here and you put it on a credit card at 830-672-3089, or you can email that email right there and talk to Cammie. Oh, Alex is doing a good job. So this is going to be a great show for y'all tonight. Okay, anything y'all can do, and also if you would like a signed copy of my book, folks, send $25 or call Cammie for $25. That will really help out. All the donations of my book go straight to keep Alex Jones videos, Mike Hanson Archives, on the air. It costs us about $800 a week to keep it going. We got really good computer geeks that come in here in a few minutes that are going to start putting this stuff up. We're doing all we can. It's a lot of Alex Jones that we have, and we're wanting to get it all out on the internet. I tell you, he was really, really, really good back in the day, I think. And I think his grandchildren are going to get a real kick out of putting all this stuff up. We were all young and slim back then. Wish we were like that now, but I'm working on it. All righty, here we go. Back to 1998. Like I say, let's go back to the future. 1998. And if you want to call, be sure to call Cammie at 830-672-3089. She will help you out whatever you need. All righty, here we go. God bless y'all, folks.
We got a big show tonight. We have Margaret Frazier, the sheriff of Travis County, admitting that they are building a helicopter base for law enforcement. The Commissioner Court lied to us 2 months ago. We brought forward the documents. I went and got the documents from the Commissioner's Court office. I had the documents that they're building a $2,031,000 helicopter base under the guise of Starflight. I brought forward that information. They said the document was wrong. They wrote up a lying document to give out the next week. And ladies and gentlemen, we have the sheriff. They are building. They do have infrared, which can see through your home. There is no privacy left in this town. They have other information. So we have an interview with her. We went out to Waco Remembrance 5 years after. Yesterday was April 19th, and we spoke to people like Ramsey Clark, who was Attorney General during the LBJ administration and worked in the Kennedy administration and the Carter administration. He's going to tell you that there's a growing police state, that the Trilateral Commission and the CFR are under the control of international crime rings. You're going to have an attorney general. What I would give for an attorney general like Ramsey Clark today, and not Herman Goering and drag Janet Reno.
Sir, what do you think about the IRS? Love them.
Church area where the families were burned to death, and I saw one of the FBI hostage negotiators, one of the slime balls, over there talking about how Koresh had live hand grenades. I'm sorry, I watched the Senate hearings, I read the court transcripts. Those were paperweights, sir. He was over there acting like the good FBI agent that said there was some problems. Then the media began to get smart-mouthed with me. And I got so angry I didn't even have some of my information, but I heard him over there lying, and I just had to tell him what I thought of him. Here is that actual confrontation.
Thought of it. We have live hand grenade building that we recovered as well. Of course, right out here in front was where the
That didn't come out in the trial. You're some kind of provocateur. In fact, you're one of those FBI agents, aren't you?
Hey, we're in the middle of one of our interviews right now.
I don't give a damn.
Well, I don't give a damn about you either. So just,
Oh, yeah, you're not going to do anything to me. These people are murderers. These people are murderers. I'm sick and tired of hearing your lies when you machine gunned a bunch of men, women, and children. You got a big problem, buddy. You sit over here. I'm not afraid of you guys. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I'm sick of it. You sit over here and you talk about how the children huddled in the corner and how the ammunition that they had is what killed them, all the rest of your garbage. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You don't stand up for the Constitution. You stand for zip, not a zero. You have no calm aplomb. It's false, my friend. And let me tell you, a lot of people are writing down your names. You can follow people around. You can harass people. You can back up your bankster buddies. But a revolution of peaceful information is coming, and when it comes time, you people are going to be brought to punishment. Do you understand? Just like Nuremberg. Just taking orders doesn't cut it, my friend. You understand me?
I think I've assessed you.
Yeah, oh, you've assessed me. Listen, you can sit there and say some kind of little joke. All your textbook garbage, my friend. I got people like General Parton, ex-head of Air Force Weapons Development. We know the federal government destroyed Oklahoma. It's proven. We know what you guys are engaged in, just like Hitler burnt the Reichstag. We know you brought Nazis over here through the rat line to set up our CIA after the OSS. So you can't sit here. You can assess me all day. I want you to assess me. I've assessed you, a smiley-faced slime ball that sits here and soft pedals and tries to placate the media. Waco Rules of Engagement shows your agents machine gunning men, women, and children as they tried to exit. One of the inventors of flare technology, they didn't have 500,000 rounds of ammunition. I just talked to Clive Doyle.
Oh, okay. And Clive is the expert on the total number of pieces of ammo.
Yes.
Oh, he is?
Yes.
Well, Clive's the one that invited me here.
Well,
That is lie number one. We talked to Clive Doyle, and he did not invite this gentleman there. Clive Doyle is one of the surviving Branch Davidians. And then lie number two is the fact that this FBI negotiator who was there during the 51 days sits up there and says sarcastically that, oh, Clive Doyle was the expert. You couldn't fit 500,000 rounds of ammunition in the small room above the storage area. This guy just sits up there and acts like Mr. Loving and Mr. Caring to the media, and it makes me want to vomit. A real FBI agent is somebody like Frederick Whitehurst, ex-head of the FBI crime lab, that left because of all types of corruption. Oh, and then we sat there and asked this bozo, I shouldn't be like that, I'm sorry, if he was so much for the Branch Davidians, how about some indictments for Bob Ricks and others that ran the siege? And, of course, he wasn't for that. Couldn't do that. It's just so easy to sit in the middle and act like Mr. Sweetie Pie.
All right, I slapped that together like in 10 minutes before we went on the air. That's why it's all bumpy and jumpy. I think we're going to put together like a 2-hour presentation of all the tape we got out there. And coming up are some...
a lot of footage.
Yeah.
A lot of footage.
Coming up are some interviews with Attorney General Ramsey Clark. Just a lot of other information. Again, the producer of Waco Rules of Engagement, Mike McNulty. And he's got a new documentary coming out. He wouldn't say it on tape, but he and others would say it off air. They have evidence, rock hard evidence, that British special forces were used because half the people in the Branch Davidian church were British, and that's kind of how international systems work. If you're going to kill somebody from another country, you use their people. That's classic if you know about CIA operations, to come in with breathing apparatus, to go inside and machine gun the people from the inside and the outside. We have footage of them killing people on the outside.
So
It was just a matter of time for something like this came out. You know, I spoke to this gentleman after you had walked away, and he was a little bit more open with me than with you. I think he didn't know that we were together, and he had mentioned a great many things. One of the things that was pretty disturbing to me is he claimed, first of all, this gentleman was a hostage negotiator for the FBI. He claims to no longer work for the FBI, but I will tell you this, as a hostage negotiator, he also claimed that 19 days after the church burned to the ground, they were allowed in, and he was part of the recovery team, recovering bodies. In fact, he claimed it cut apart the hand of a mother and her child. She was holding her child's hand, and their hands had melted together. He claimed that the temperature in that room was approximately 3,000 degrees because they found melted aluminum, which I don't know if that's an accurate temperature figure, and that the people either died from suffocating on CS gas, either suffocation from smoke inhalation, or that they did not burn to death, but rather baked to death. And he made that point very clear. These bodies were not burned beyond recognition. They were, in fact, quite intact. They actually baked alive, if you can possibly imagine that.
Well, the reason I blew up at him, and we don't have that on tape because we didn't know. We come walking up, and we were listening. And he was up there, yes, the FBI, blah, blah, you made some mistakes, but Koresh had live hand grenades.
Yeah, he said they found an unexploded hand grenade. After just saying that the temperatures in there were 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, then he goes and claims that there was an unexploded hand grenade found in there. And as far as the 500,000 shell casings goes, again, Alex had left at this point, there were shell casings still all over the place. And I'm sitting here thinking, if this gentleman in fact took such an accurate count, why were there still shell casings littered about 5 years later? And there was a sole of a shoe, a boot, still there with the imprint of someone's foot, the ball of someone's foot, where it had melted. Their foot had
should have
melted
taken
into
that.
the shoe sole.
Should have taken that.
I think somebody else picked it up. And he also, and this is one of the most damning things that I heard him say, out of all the FBI agents that were out there collecting evidence, they were sifting through the dirt with screens, and they would collect evidence, and the dirt, the items that they considered to not be evidence, they were tossing in what they call trash piles. He said later on, one of the medical examiners was dumping his trash into the trash pile and found the spine and the pelvic cage of a child that had been discarded in the trash pile, and that whoever it was that sifted it didn't realize that those were the bones of a human being, one of the children that died in the attack on Waco. It's absolutely disgusting, the total lack of respect they have for human life.
He's an agent. He's a soft soaker. He's there to placate and engage in all that type behavior. Now, let me show you something right here. We have the Statesman, and it shows the baby from Oklahoma City. We have the Dallas Morning News. It has the same photograph.
Well, because other news is obtained from the same source, UPI or AP.
And we have USA Today. It has the same photograph of the baby. So they all have this fireman photo. Oh, but look, China's being nice. They released a political dissident. See, China's being good. They just have 30 million political dissidents in slave labor camps. Oh, boy. They're doing a really, really, really great job.
Alex, worse than that, when I got home last night and I turned on the television, one of the mainstream television news magazines were they playing anything about Oklahoma City? Were they playing anything about Waco? No, of course not. They spent 17 minutes, I timed it, on a couple that rescued a moose from an icy lake.
Well, see, that's part of lowering the level of humans by raising the level of animals. Then you can give animals voting rights, but animals can't talk, so the state gets to cast their ballot.
I'll tell you, it absolutely twisted my stomach. After meeting individuals, Clive Doyle, who I believe his hands were burned from trying to escape from the burning building. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, they were.
Is it okay? I met children that survived from there, old women that survived from Waco. I looked at headstones that memorialize dead children, dead babies, dead unborn babies, and I come home to my television set, mainstream so-called professional news people, and they're worried about some goddamn moose in a stupid frozen lake. This is way more important than babies dying, women dying, children dying, men dying, your government attacking its citizens. No, 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 no. What's important in this world is a moose.
Well, Steve, you know, though, we're hurting the earth. And I agree with that. And the first people that need to go with this global Malthusian euthanasia plan they've got set up for everybody is David Rockefeller. All your top people. I agree. And hey, we should all be marked. We should all have to thumb scan and retina scan like they're doing and have more of plan to buy and sell. Mike Hanson, the producer of this show, went to the bank today and he has a recording of him asking if they have thumb scanning planned. And yeah, I know to put it close. I'm not going to play it right now.
We tested it earlier.
Yeah, I do it on radio too.
Oh.
And so what it comes down to is yes, they're planning to put in thumb scanners, electronic scanning to buy and sell. That'll be coming very, very soon for you in the future, for your best interest, of course. But I think that the elite should have to do it first. I think everybody in the establishment who's criminal. I don't mean somebody that owns a business or who people think is rich. No, I mean people that raise your taxes and ship drugs into your country. They should have to have a big brand burned on their head that says murderer. So I am for marking. I am for the things they're for. I am for killing whole populations. Let's start with them.
I think it's not such a bad plan.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, who's going to go first? Scott Horton was telling me a story. He's going to get a show down here. He's a friend of mine. He works at a restaurant, just a fast food place. He's a young guy, about 21 years old. Mm-hmm. Hardworking guy, works at a place, also drives a cab. He's in there, and this guy comes up and just makes a comment. And Scott didn't know that he was Jewish, because Scott has friends that are Jewish, you know, mm-hmm. and he made the comment. The guy goes, without Scott saying anything, the guy's like, you know, what do you want? And the guy says, I want, you know, this such sandwich. And then the guy just starts spouting off, man, there's too many damn people. It's time to cull the herd. It's time to, you know, get rid of a lot of these people. Oh, I'm sick and tired of it. And Scott goes, oh no, man. There's plenty of room. Haven't you been up in an airplane? Haven't you been out in the country? Haven't you been? Yeah. I mean, haven't you seen America's 90% undeveloped? We've got plenty. Oh no, we don't have enough water. There's not enough water. And he says, look at Israel. Look what they've done. The great job they've done. They have desalination plants and blah blah blah. And then, you know, we have tons of water in America. You can put a city here, a city there. And the guy goes, I'm from Israel. I'm Jewish. How dare you? And Scott was going, no, I was saying they moved there moved back in the 1945 or 46 or 7 and made the desert bloom. I was being nice. And the guy's, we need to get rid of a lot of these people. We need to get rid of them. Scott's like, well, man, I can't believe that you're Jewish after all these people that have been killed of your people. I'm not for anybody dying. I'm for us improving technology and moving forward and doing what it takes. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, you're probably some kind of supremacist and got his stuff and left. I mean, and that's not a comment of a Jewish person. It's a comment of a German person, a Jewish person. I mean, I've had professors, you know, that were black, that were white. Doesn't matter. They're all infected. The whole society, regardless, is infected with this sickness that humans are bad. And Kevorkian is some type of god.
They're buying into this whole environmentalism, which is nothing more than gloom and doom. Witch doctors saying, oh, if you don't do this, the sky will turn black and the rivers will run red with your blood. You know, you have to give us your land. You have to have cities go buy $65 million worth of land to protect everything.
I try to escape this stuff. Last night I get home at about 1 o'clock. I've been working all day, been up since, you know, early in the morning, went to Waco, then I was editing the documentary. I come home, it's about 1 in the morning. I get in bed, I start reading this book my mother gave me. It was written by a Austin author. It's about the history of dogs. It's real well written. Mm-hmm. About 20 pages into it, it starts talking about the history in Europe that the poor people weren't allowed, and I already knew this, but it was just good to read it again, but I still can't escape elitism, even in a history of dogs. And it talked about how dogs, only the rich could have dogs. The poor people couldn't hunt or couldn't even go on the king's land, which was 90% of the whole country. Couldn't take some venison or some rabbits if they were dying. And if they were allowed to have a dog, it was only to service the king's sheep, you know, as a sheepdog. They would cut off 3 digits off the dog's left paw so it would hobble so it couldn't bring down game. And it talked about how people weren't allowed to use property and how they could be executed for killing a rabbit even if their family was starving. This is ancient. Control of the resources by crooked establishments to make you impotent in... That's what it is. This is just modern feudalism. Yeah, we're fixing to go to...
It's an interview that I happened to be down at the tax protest on the real April Fool's Day, April 15th, and guess who is there? Your Travis County Sheriff, Margot Frazier. I think it's very interesting. She waits to the last minute to pay her taxes like so many others. And actually it was Mike that spotted her, Mike Hanson, and we flagged her down, got her to pull off because she was
hold on,
it's not traffic.
It's not her taxes, it's Chase Manhattan taxes.
Yeah.
It's
corporate welfare.
It's Citibank taxes. It's basically your old trust money. We pay taxes to the secret government. Remember that?
Right. But she was concerned about holding up traffic, so she pulled off to the side, and she very graciously granted an interview. And I want you to listen very carefully. She admits about that Starflight's going to be used for going to be mounted with forward-looking infrared radar. Mike, do you have that tape all queued up?
And also, after that, we've got Shannon Burke, who's on the same radio station as me. I'm a frequent guest.
First of all, I'm Steve Lane. This is Sheriff Margot Frazier. Is that correct? I'm sorry, I actually live in Marble Falls, so I'm familiar with names and faces. If it's all right, we just want to ask you a few questions. First of all, I'd like to extend an invitation. Lieutenant Beck has accepted an invitation to be our featured speaker at our Downsized Government Conference this month. We kind of wanted to give our audience a chance to hear what the role of SWAT is. Like, I was surprised to learn that their main role is serving felony warrants, which was news to me. And I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions about how people reporting that some of the local law enforcement agencies are doing some training with federal government people, military, that sort of thing. And we wanted a chance to let him to hear his side of the story. We've only heard one side of the story, so I'd kind of like to see maybe you come down there and speak for a little bit. We'd really love to hear you talk. But right now I wanted to ask you a few questions. We wanted to talk about Starflight a little bit. Can you kind of give me a rundown, because I myself am just learning about it. I don't know all the facts. Can you kind of give me a rundown about what some of the controversy is surrounding Starflight and its use by the Sheriff's Department?
Well, I don't know. One second, please. I have a 5-year-old.
I was going to say, I have a 5-year-old and an 8-month-old, and you can imagine this 8-month-old crawling around right now. Oh my gosh, you should see it.
I don't know that there is any controversy about us using Starflight. We wanted to start a helicopter patrol program, especially to use for rescues out on the lake, and to be able to use in other high-risk situations. But having the use of a helicopter, it would lessen the risk to both the public and to the officers. And so we looked at different ways to do that, and one of the cheapest ways to do it was to use helicopters that were already being paid for by the county. And so we made a proposal to use Starflight during the hours that it was not being flown for medical emergencies. Medical emergencies is still the first priority is Starflight. And so we have a schedule in which we use it. We use the same mechanics, the same pilots, and have a sheriff's office personnel on board. And by doing that, we're able to operate the program basically at the cost of the fuel and nothing more to the public.
What about the, I've heard something, and again, I'm still educating myself, so bear with me here. It seems like I recall seeing something about somebody's introduced a plan to build a hangar to house Starflight and some possible purchase of some Sheriff's Department helicopters or something to that effect. Can you speak to that a little bit?
There is part of the bond issue that was passed by the public was a new Starflight hangar. Starflight is presently housed at Robert Mueller Airport. You might be aware it's going away.
Right.
And they have been told that they're not welcome at the new airport because of the difficulty of helicopters and airplanes living together. I don't understand it all, but if they tell me that,
I'm a private pilot, I can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, if they say that's a problem, I accept it. And so there needs to be a new Starflight hangar, and so they've been looking at places to put the Starflight hangar. The county is exploring the fact of maybe putting they're also looking for places for parts of my decentralization plan, some substations. And so the discussion was, do we put, you get to listen to kids' songs in the background.
Great.
Yeah, she's wonderful. But whether or not we should put Starflight in the sheriff's substation and even perhaps a warehouse together. And so that's the talk about it being together. I mean,
what about? Have you heard anything? plan to change anything at all having to do with the helicopter itself? Will they change any of the equipment, any of the setup of the helicopter, or have you heard anything about that at all?
Well, there are 2 new county helicopters that are supposed to be coming in because the ones that we presently have are due to be phased out. And so we've talked about for law enforcement purposes, there are a couple things that you would like to have, but also, I mean, they're actually the same essential sort of things you use for rescue missions, as far as some things that will allow you to essentially do some heat sensing, what's called a FLIR, so that if you were looking for somebody on the lake at night, you wouldn't only be able to use the light, but you could use the heat sensing to try to find where they are.
I see. The helicopters that were purchased, were they used helicopters or new?
No, they're my understanding that these are new helicopters, and they're being purchased through EMS, and we, quite frankly, have had nothing to do with what type they are. Since their main purpose is medical, they're dictating what the helicopters look like.
I see. What do you think about maybe getting Lieutenant Beck to be one of the guys who flies it? He's got a commercial rating. Why don't you try and talk him into that? He seems like a pretty good guy.
Oh, he is a good guy, and we have some very experienced pilots with those aircrafts that are part of the Starflight program who tell me they can put it down anywhere, and so I think I'll leave the flying to them.
He'd probably do too many aerobatics anyway. He was telling me about some aerobatics training he did. I'm a pilot too, and we chatted a lot about that. I tell you what, just for some closing comments, anything. How much of are you an elected official? Is that how it works? How much time is left on your term?
I've got another 2.5 years. I'm in my just finished my 15th month.
Out of the last part of your term, is there any one main specific thing you'd like to accomplish, or just a lot of general things? And could you speak about those a little bit?
Well, I have a multifaceted job. I not only have responsible for all the law enforcement. I'm a mom, as you can tell. I'm not only responsible for law enforcement in the unincorporated areas of serving the felony warrants all over Travis County. Provision. I have mental health deputies that go all over the county, but I also run a 2,500 bed jail facility. And so this next year, we're in the process of finishing our new booking facility, and we'll be opening that. And then we start on a new psychiatric and medical facility out at Del Valle. So we always have something going on, and we're also trying to do some decentralization to take the officers out to the public. So the public, instead of always sitting downtown Austin waiting for the public to come to us, for us to go to them.
Real quick, have you heard of the Travis County ASAP program, and what would you be willing to say maybe what your feelings are about that?
Well, the ASAP program is a program that's run by the constables out of the Commissioner's Court. I think that the basic idea of getting kids to go to school is a good program. I was supportive of looking at the ideas of, does it make good economic sense to have somebody go out there the very first time?
Well, we are back, and of course you notice that it's all for emergencies, and the key thing that she kept saying is, well, we get the helicopters and we control them, and we're going to put infrared on them, heat sensors on them, and all the rest of this stuff, but we don't decide who buys them. See, they put them on the bond package as Starflight, EMS, emergency rescue. As I drove over here today, I saw 2 dark green military surveillance type helicopters. They weren't the big Sikorskys, they weren't the big Bells, they were little Peapod military surveillance helicopters with photographic and infrared pods on the bottom. I'm going to start carrying, and I'm seeing more and more of these things.
They were at Waco. There was one at Waco.
Yeah, and we got that on tape. I mean, we're in a police state. It is accelerating, and they're getting ready to close the door on us. He was Attorney General, former Attorney General, and also worked in several other administrations. So you're going to want to hear what he has to say coming up in Waco yesterday. And then, of course, we have producers and others. Do you want to go ahead and go to Shannon Burke?
Yeah, we did.
This is at the tax protest. If you want to see the tax protest, you can see footage of the tax protest the 23rd of April, and that's on Thursdays, and that's at 5 p.m. So every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. you can see more of these stories in their entirety. And so, of course, that is the 23rd of April. You will be able to see, and I think that's this Thursday, isn't it?
Yes, this Thursday.
This Thursday at 5 p.m. You can set your VCRs. You'll be able to see the tax protest, which got pretty heated, I heard. Let's go ahead and go to Shannon Burke from my radio station, the station I work for, 98.9 KJFK.
Can't say what. This is for Access Television,
Okay,
you know.
good.
But you can figure it out. Same one as Mr. Alex Jones. We're standing here at the main post office, and I've invited Shannon to perhaps come down and speak at the Downsized Government Conference. Why don't you tell people what you're doing out here tonight?
Well, I'm just trying to get a little feedback. I mean, there's a lot of people that protest this. We see it on TV all the time. People really want to know if it's real. And if it is real, how can we participate? Everyone fears the IRS. We've been fearing them for years and years and years. They're the most powerful force in our lives, more powerful than the Lord Jesus Christ, if you can imagine that. But we want to know how to beat it. No one wants to pay taxes. We don't have to. We love our country, but if we don't have to pay the taxes, we're not going to pay them. And we're just out here trying to find. I'm just trying to find out, you know, the direction, where we're headed, how we can get involved.
What I think is interesting is we had a woman quoting a Bible verse earlier. We've been trying to interview people, and I'd say 98% of people won't talk on camera. And I think a lot of that's through fear. And I don't mean apathy or being scared or nervous. I think they genuinely are fearful.
Absolutely. The IRS can kiss my big white butt. I don't give a damn. I mean, I pay them
Shannon
every year.
Burke.
Year after year after year, I pay and I pay and I pay, and you know, there's no end to it. And I, more than anyone else, am more interested in the sovereignty individual of America and how I can become that way, and the homework and what I need to do. It's all about education. Learn what you can, go to the seminars, exercise what these people are telling you, and beat our opponents. Beat our opponents.
What's your new show going to be?
The Shannonburg Show, I think.
Very good, very good. One quick thing. I noticed that one woman who was quoting Bible verses when we spoke to her. I think it's very interesting that God himself only asked for 10% of your income, but the IRS asked for about 38%. What do you think about that?
I think God knows what he's doing. You know, he doesn't want to gouge anybody. You know, God needs a little bit of money. He's got a lot of overhead, God does. He's got heaven, he's got everybody up there. He only needs a little bit of money for overhead. Of course, our country needs more than he needs, which tells you something right there. Listen to my calls in quite a bit, so thank you, Steve.
It was nice meeting you, Shannon. I appreciate it. I'm going to
get
get you down there. I'll call you.
You got it.
The
Well,
newest member of the right-wing extremist club.
Shannon's funny.
He's turning. He's turning.
Yes.
Before your influence, buddy, he was a bleeding heart, tree-hugging liberal, and now look at him.
Well, now he knows that the people
He
that
knows
are,
the truth.
Now he knows that the people that are cutting down the trees are the ones conning and controlling these wind-up toy environmentalist organizations.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, and Shannon's very easily swayed by, he's a good guy. You'll see him one day, and then the next day he's in with a different crowd. But he's starting, even when he's around them, he's starting to. Well, I've been out with Shannon a couple times. He's a good guy, and he used to own Cedar Street down there, and I think he owns some other interest in some other bars, and owns some real estate.
That was the first time I actually met him in person. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. I wouldn't want to meet him on a dark street with him ticked off at you.
Yeah, he's a big wimp. I'm just joking. No, seriously. All right, what's the next story? I think we should go ahead and go to, if we've queued up the tape. Are you ready for that, Mike? Or what was the schedule tonight? You'd given me a... Oh, Thumbprint. Yeah, Thumbprint.
This is a tape recording that Mike made at, I believe it was his bank. It's a little bit scratchy. We're just taking it out right off the micro cassette recorder here, but we want you to hear what happened at his bank.
This isn't my recorder. I don't see play on here. Will you just shove it into...
Q maybe?
Oh, it's review. Review. Remember, we don't have teleprompters. Actually, we have teleprompters, but we never use them. I know how to do it right here. This is Mike at the bank.
Question for you. I was just curious. Is this bank setting up the thumb scanning or the fingerprints already?
Yes, it is in the lobby for non-account holders only.
Okay, but they don't have any plans to make the regular customers start thumb scanning or fingerprinting at this time?
I don't know. Let me ask.
Because that's when I quit your bank.
Great silence. Is that it, Mike? And there we go.
Actually, wait.
Do you have any plans at this time, or y'all setting up the thumb scanning or fingerprint
Here he's talking to the supervisor.
deal right now?
Yes, sir. Actually, the thumbprinting has already been implemented, and that takes place in the lobby. That's why our drive-throughs are now reserved for our account holders only, and our non-account holders have to take their checks into the lobby in order to cash them.
Okay, but you're not making the ones that have accounts here get thumb scanned or fingerprint at this time, right?
At this particular point in time, no. We're trying to hold back from doing that because we wouldn't want to inconvenience our account holders. Depending upon, like I say, a lot of things, how security goes, how the new procedure is going, then they will decide whether or not they want to move towards making our account holders do their thumbprinting.
I wanted to make a little comment here. Mike asked me to ask people, for those of you who wanted something to do, this is one small step you can make. We could start a grassroots effort here. Mike is making a call tonight to have every individual who's against having their thumbprint taken at the bank, their thumb scanned at the bank, fingerprints, blood, whatever it is they want next week, to stand up and say, if you're going to do this, I'm not going to use your bank. I'm not going to bring my business here. And if enough people cry out against this, they will stop this thumb scanning and thumb printing at banks. I mean, ultimately, it is money that drives these banks. They are businesses. It's time to stand up. If you want to stand up in your own little way, this is a great way to do it. I agree with Mike. A grassroots effort like this could be very successful. You can stand up against the New World Order in your own little way, in your own little hometown.
Well,
and
look
say,
here.
I refuse to do this, or I won't do business with you if you make me do this.
That's a great resistance, but first we have to educate people. If people started standing up against that, they'd send in some agent provocateur screaming, I hate thumb scanning, and he'd blow up a building with 1,000 people in it. And then everyone would say thumb scanning is wonderful.
Oh, but this is America. It's the greatest country in the world.
They have to have thumb scanning. I'm talking about digital thumb scanning imprint, and they do it to get a driver's license. Clinton wants urine and blood testing. I've showed you the documents 100 times, Federal Register, all that jazz. If you want to deny it, that's fine. It's about a world taxation system. It's about taking away your individual rights. And people say, well, what do you have to fear? What are you hiding? It's an invasion of privacy. And you can prepare yourselves. The media's drumming up support for it. For retina scanning, the government's already doing it, been doing it for 20 years. For thumbprint and handprint identification. For urine and blood testing to get driver's license. Prepare yourself for new environmental taxes that are massive, for cameras everywhere, for K-tag chips in your car before you're able to drive or move or do anything. They're already doing it in Kansas and other states. Prepare yourselves. Prepare yourselves to be tracked and numbered like in some sick machine. And I hope you all enjoy it, because there'll be plenty of football games and plenty of bread and circus for you to enjoy until they institute the economic crash to consolidate the wealth, because these are despots. These are criminal individuals that are running this country and that are running this world. They don't have to do what they're doing, but they're going to do it because they make their money out of control of civilizations, not out of production and real creation and ingenuity. So this is a real deal here. This is really happening.
I'll tell you, we're going to kind of shift focus here a little bit. Alex and I and many others took a bus yesterday to Waco at the site of Mount Carmel, or at least what's left of it. There's been a nice little museum erected there. There were surviving Branch Davidians. There was probably at least 300 people, I would say. It's difficult to tell because it was a very spread out area. The crowd was very spread out. We had a former United States Attorney General there under the Johnson administration. Yeah. He also served in the Kennedy administration. We're going to see some footage
also
here.
The Carter administration.
Oh, also the Carter administration. We're going to see some footage here. We regret that it's so concise here, but obviously we're going to get together. We have hours of footage. We're going to have to get something together.
I mean, I didn't select stuff out of here very well. I got up here about an hour before the show, actually 2 hours before the and I just kind of slapped some cuts out of here. We're going to put it on in its entirety, a whole 2 hours of it. You'll probably be able to see an hour of it Thursdays from 5 to 6 in the next few weeks during the Real News Hour. A lot of scary information. And you saw earlier how I griped out that FBI agent who was out there soft-soaking things. I just want to say one thing, Steve.
Stay tuned right here for more classics.
I just want to say one thing, Steve. I appreciate the work you've been doing and the work everybody's been doing. I have been working really hard on this documentary, and that's got me a little bit stressed out. But it's so depressing when you see what's going on. And you see people on the street that are very intelligent and come up and talk to you, or doctors or lawyers or business owners or plumbers. They know what they're talking about. And then you see those people in all the same areas of life who feel like they've reached the pinnacle because they have a few people that they can boss around, and they don't care if everything's a lie.
Or a company car.
They don't care, exactly. It's baubles. None of it means anything. It's just real thin veneer. And we can change things. I mean, we have changed some things here in town with the ASAP program. We got some modifications to that. We exposed the helicopter base, and then you see the sheriff up there telling you, well, it was bought under the guise, but she said it was bought, EMS. But yeah, we're going to use it. Yeah, we just bought 2 more helicopters. Yeah, we're building a $2,031,000, 3 acres under the roof. They'll put 15 helicopters in there, my friends. They'll get free helicopters from the military. They're handing them out like candy. And I don't know what these helicopters are I see flying around that don't have any markings. I've called out to Camp Mabry. I've called out to Fort Hood. These are not Fort Hood helicopters. These little pod surveillance helicopters. I saw 2 of them today.
Yeah, well, when I was at Waco, I made the point that I used to refuel aircraft in the Air Force. That's what I did full time, and I know full well what a pod looks like on the front of an aircraft.
They have FLIR and photograph pods on them,
and the glass reflects light in a certain way that's just very unique. And through experience that what those are. Before we go to this video, real quick, I forgot to mention earlier that the alleged provocateur, one of the things he said was that Clive Doyle invited him there, and we talked to Clive Doyle, and what Clive said is that the gentleman had asked to be out there. He hadn't been out there in 5 years since the original siege, and Clive Doyle said, I can't keep you from coming out here. Now, that's not much of an invitation. On top of that...
Well, unfortunately, I stormed off because the bus had to leave. You rode home with somebody else because you wanted to continue. The video cameras were gone. But yes, Clive said, yeah, that FBI agent is out there. I wish he wasn't here. He's out there walking around on the rubble out there with the film crews. We stormed out. Went out to see what he was talking about. Right as I walk up, he's sitting up there on the rubble saying, the children died here, Koresh had unexploded hand grenades and 500,000 rounds of ammunition. I just explode and go storming up to him. And then he starts going, what's your problem? What's your problem? And I attack him on a few things, but I should have sit there and said, you're a liar, sir. That came out in the Senate hearings. I'm just sick of these people.
I'll tell you, one of the other points too was that Clive had asked Clive, do you think anybody will feel any animosity towards me? And Clive told him, quite frankly, there's only one way to find out. I can't tell you. Well,
you know what the sick part was too? The media. It was local media.
They were swarming this guy.
Well, they were swarming him, and I believe it was a KV-24 reporter. I walk up and I say, you're a liar. And the guy turns and he goes, we're doing something here. And I go, well, I said, he's a liar. And the guy goes, hey! And they must be used to people just quivering. I said, you shut the hell up. I shouldn't have been rude. I said, I'm going to tell this guy he's a liar. He's standing where these children died that he negotiated. They weren't negotiating. They lied. Waco Rules of Engagement shows these guys lying to the Davidians. Then they machine gun him, and he's up there soaking up all this attention.
500,000 rounds of ammunition would have taken up at least a third of that room from the floor to the ceiling. We did some volume calculations the other day. He claimed that these 500,000 rounds of ammunition were stacked on 2x12 shelves and collapsed on top of the people, and that caused some of the blunt force injuries.
It's a very small room. You're talking about a small room that had 20-something children and women, or 30-something, and then it had 500,000 rounds of ammo.
Hey, even if what he said was true, which I don't think it was, why is a hostage negotiator going around doing body recovery? I mean, isn't that forensic evidence?
Look, this guy's an agent. He's a front man. He's out there to soft soak. Let's go ahead and go to the clip. And don't forget, Ramsey, okay, let's go to a call.
Caller, go ahead.
Go ahead, caller.
Hang on, caller. You're not turned up yet. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
How you doing, caller?
Hi. This is for Alex. I was just wondering if you ever, when you went down to get your license, because you are the mass murderer that you are, you got arrested. If any of the people, just general people that were there, said to hell with it, no.
No, they didn't. As soon as I got arrested, everybody got pushed out. It was funny. It was like they thought I would, command people to do something bad.
Right. We were forced out of the building.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean you people. I mean just people in general that were there.
I heard that somebody got arrested a couple of weeks after for refusing.
I hadn't heard that.
Okay, and also I was wondering what exactly did you do about your license? Did you have to go and get it, or?
No, I'm just driving without a license.
Well,
and yeah, they've taken my right to travel. That's why I went ahead and got arrested. They kept saying, leave or we'll arrest you, or this, or on and on. And I said, look. Well, they said, you don't have to take this driver's license. You don't have to take this driver's license, on and on and on. And I said, you're not going to arrest me now. But if I don't take this, I'll be arrested out on some road when I don't have a...
You need to go from point A to point B.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Can't cash checks at banks that I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
They have taken my right to buy and sell. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to turn up the heat and make it worse because I won't take Bill Clinton's mark. And it is a digital number. It is a human number. It is a human number calculated by the separation and the ring structure of your thumbprint.
It's a digital tattoo.
I was just wondering if you ever did any kind of follow-up as to how many people just said, to hell with it, I'm going with this guy. I mean, just oblivious to you even being there.
I told people I didn't want them to go into jail. There were some people that were ready to do that. I just wanted to get attention to the fact that, hey, if you and your neighbors, 10 of you.
No, I didn't mean...
Well, hold on for a second. If you and your neighbors want to get together and go down and protest yourselves, I've done it now. Some other people need to set up protest.
I don't think you understand what I'm saying. It's not as far as going to jail, just people that just walked out and said, to hell with it, I'm not getting my license.
Oh, you mean people already there that didn't have anything to do with the protest?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I don't know if that happened or not.
Well, I know the news got some 18-year-old female to say these people are, it's weird how they're protesting this. I love it. Pretty much is what was on KV24.
Well, listen, thanks for your call.
Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Basically, though, I don't care if others don't stand up against this. I wish they would. If they don't want to, great. They can be slaves. Is it time to go to the tape now? Again, this is the Freedom Report every Monday evening from 7 to 8:30 p.m.
Here's the black helicopter. You want to talk just a second?
Okay, sure. Yeah, there's the helicopter. It was military. And it was flat green, and it was of a surveillance type, and it did have a pod of some type. I've watched Discovery Channel enough to know what a surveillance pod with either flare, forward infrared-looking infrared technology, or it was a zoom camera that they were taking photographs of us with to later blow up. I'm not exactly sure, but Steve Lane, again, was in the Air Force for how many years?
3.
3 years, and he fueled aircraft. Did you ever fuel helicopters?
Yes.
And so you've learned what the distinctive.
It has a reflection that's very distinct.
Well, it has a little.
It's very pinkish.
Yes, it's a reflection below the helicopter pod.
Yes, definitely. And the pod is in the nose. That was a Bell Jet Ranger that you saw. I'm not sure which model. They have so many different models, Bell does. But at any rate, you could see that pod very clearly. I don't know if you could see it very well on the film. You could see the reflection in the film, which I was glad because it does have a distinctive reflection. It's kind of pinkish when you're there in person, and that's because the type of glass that these cameras sit behind, particularly if you look at them at an angle.
It reflects light.
Yeah, they're such high-quality glass, they're almost like mirrors.
Well, yes, it reflects light so that there isn't a shine on the front of the lens so they can get high-resolution photographs. So they were flying over at an angle, around and around in circles. About 3 times they fly around?
I didn't pay attention that long because we got the footage, and then we were looking around for other people that might have had the footage as well, that sort of thing.
Well, if we're ready now, we'll go ahead and go to about 20 minutes of tape. This is the Freedom Report every Monday night.
Look, there's never been a good answer for that. Jeff Jamar in the congressional hearings stated categorically that the reason why April 19th was picked was because the weather was good. Well, if you're putting gas into a building, having a high-velocity wind operative that can dissipate the gas doesn't mean that the weather was good. It means that it was bad. So what did he mean the weather was good? Was it good for a fire? Yeah. It was very conducive for an arson fire, but it wasn't very good for inserting gas that day. So what did Jeff Jamar mean? No one that wound up inevitably causing the death of all these people. Who was ultimately responsible? Agents of the FBI, agents of the federal government, and the military. They were ultimately responsible for the deaths of all these people.
One more question. What would you say the general public thinks? Who does the general public think is at fault?
Well, I think the general public is in a state of confusion. Unfortunately, yourself and the rest of the media haven't helped that much in terms of clarifying that state of confusion. But I think that they're concerned about who did kill the kids? I think that the questions that are contained in the film are questions that everyone needs to answer, including yourself. Who killed the children? The bottom line becomes one of you have a personal obligation as a citizen, you have a dual obligation as a reporter to find out what went on. And what bothers me is that the media allows people like Buck Revell or Bob Ricks to answer questions about the issues raised in my film, and these gentlemen haven't even seen the film, and yet they spout off like they have. And you don't nail them for it. You ought to. The other thing that I find disturbing is that very few people in the media have seen the film, and yet they'll sit there and pontificate for hours about what's good or bad about it. Well, see the film, answer the questions, and that goes for any citizen. See the film, answer the questions.
His film, documentary, Waco Rules of Engagement, was up for an Academy Award, and I think it should have won. It is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. It methodically documents the hysteria in our government. Mr. McNulty, I want to thank you for doing this interview.
You're welcome.
Do you think this is going to come out? Why are you making a second documentary?
Well, the first film certainly raised all the right questions. Didn't always have all of the answers. So I've spent some additional time and effort in trying to get better answers to the questions. Who shot first on February 28th? Was there really gunfire from the helicopters? Did the FBI shoot at the Branch Davidians on April the 19th in spite of their protestations? Who were the people at the back of the building shooting at the Branch Davidians on April the 19th? What was involved with the explosion on the top of the bunker during the course of the fire? How was the evidence handled or mishandled in the following investigation? Questions like that. So we get to deal with those issues, and hopefully when we've dealt with them, we're in the process of making that film, and I'm finding very little cooperation from people who were involved. People like Bob Ricks or Jeff Chamar or Dick
He was
Roger.
head of the FBI at that operation, correct?
No, Jeff Chamar was.
And Bob Ricks, he was?
He was the public spokesperson that you saw in all the news
Okay, so he was the public spokesperson for the FBI.
Right. And basically, trying to get those people to cooperate now has been like pulling teeth. They're not interested. Well, I can appreciate why they might not be, but the fact of the matter is, these are the same fellows that are out bad-mouthing my film, and I think it's only appropriate first that they see the film before they bad-mouth it, and then once they've had that opportunity, that they also spend some time answering the questions raised in the film, as opposed to just being critical in sort of a general haphazard way.
Mr. McNulty, I have seen your documentary when it premiered in Austin, Texas, to a packed house at the Dobie at UT, and I was ashamed that our newspaper didn't do a front cover story. They did it in the movie section, and they said it showed troubling information, showed federal agents firing from their sniper points and actually up right next to the church, or what the media would call the compound. I know some new documentation's coming out that's even worse than just the feds firing at women and children as they tried to exit the burning building through the cafeteria area. Now, is it true that some documentation's coming out, if you want to go ahead and release this, I've heard it from others, that they actually sent in?
I don't think so.
That they actually sent in hit squads?
I don't think so.
You don't think they sent in hit squads?
No, I don't think I'm going to release any information right now under these circumstances. Basically, we will have new information in the film. People will be able to judge for themselves as to what went on and why it went on and who was responsible. But no, I don't think I want to talk about that too much right now.
Yes, due to their arrogance, they ignored this powerful information, and now it's gotten pretty big, and they're starting to panic.
I don't know if panic's the right word, but certainly they've begun to pay attention where they hadn't for the past year and a half. And ultimately, all that tells me is these fellas have got something on their mind. And I have contacted them recently, like Bob Ricks, and given them the opportunity to speak their piece, to state their side of the story. And they refuse to do so. So in my mind, all that tells me is they've got something to hide. So if that's the case, then shame on them. I think what went on here, and the fact that it wasn't documented by the media the way it should have been, probably has something to do with why you have a TV show and a radio show. You're not exactly mainline, but on the other hand, the birth of that type of communications is a good thing, because it gives the mainline media something to think about next time they want to kowtow to the people of the Justice Department for fear of losing news sources. So perhaps it's a good thing, and perhaps there is good that's come out of the situation at Waco.
In your opinion, who was it firing the automatic weapons?
Who was firing the automatic weapons at the back of the building on April the 19th will be revealed in the new film. In terms of, do I think that, do I have any idea why the media isn't doing their job? I don't know. You have to go ask them. That's what you ought to be doing right now, is asking these guys why they haven't done their job relative to that.
Okay, let's go ask
Well, they're just errand boys. They're just out getting the footage. It gets cut up back home.
Yeah, and what you have to do is go and find the editors.
I've done it.
And put them on camera and ask them, why is it you haven't run these stories?
Let's go ask.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
I'm serious. Have you seen Waco Rules of Engagement?
Yes, I have.
You have? So you have seen the inventor, the man that holds 3 of the 4 patents on flare technology, telling you that those are sniper points firing automatic weapons. What do you think about that?
I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was a different perspective than I had heard before. I don't know that I will base any definite opinion on it, but I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a different perspective, and it taught me something I didn't know before.
Well, are you aware that our Secretary of Defense, William Cohen, just created 10 regional teams to work with local law enforcement? That is absolutely unconstitutional, and they're doing anti-terrorism training all around the country. Are you aware that General Benton Pardon, ex-head of Air Force Weapons Development, says that Oklahoma City was done with pinpoint strikes inside the building?
No, I wasn't aware about that.
Right up there on the podium, here at the 5-year remembrance of the slaughter here, is Ramsey Clark, ex-Attorney General of the United States of America.
And became the director of the National Council.
And he is there telling you that we are under federal control. The military is training with local law enforcement. This is absolute police state. Nazi Germany is right upon us. But this time it's going to be not racial, but environmental and socialist. It's the real deal, ladies and gentlemen, and you can't deny it. Clark, he was Attorney General during LBJ's administration, and he said some very stunning information that a lot of us in the freedom movement know about, but a lot of people out there in the mainstream, because of the press, don't know about. He was talking about the growing police state. Sir, would you like to make some comments on that?
Well, our government has become the greatest purveyor of violence on earth, as Dr. King said it was in 1967. But today it's gone beyond all reasonable bounds. To trains people like the School for the Americas to go into Chiapas, Mexico, and kill Mayan Indians who were starving to death with our NAFTA thing that's driven their corn off the market because they can't compete with us and then can't sell their surplus corn to make a little money to buy some water purifiers so their kids don't get sick and die from polluted water. Here at home you see things like Waco, which show that we carry over our militarism right into our churches to assault church people.
Well, yes, sir. My first question is, or my first statement about this is you're absolutely right. I mean, we have military training, people in black ski masks with the MJTF, the multi-jurisdictional task forces, training directly with our local law enforcement in Austin, Texas, where I'm from, and I found out that this is a nationwide movement.
Sure it is, and the sad part is, you know, the cop is supposed to be our friend on the beat. He's the one that gets the cat out of the tree and takes care of the lost kids and stops someone from burglarizing a home and stuff like that. Instead, they love to be SWAT team, you know?
It's the thin blue line. They're teaching them. In fact, I've heard police...
Pretty thick blue line right now.
I've done interviews at protests and things, and the police walk up and say, stay behind the demarcation line. And you'll hear them talking, watch the civilians. They're using military terminology. Is this dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous. A paramilitary concept of police is a police state, you know, and our Constitution was created to prevent a police state. Yet our police expenditures, our creation of the fear of crime and the belief that you can solve crime by more prisons, by the death penalty, and by beating people in the head is crazy. It's just war with our own society, and you see it come to a head at a peaceful church in outside of Waco, Texas, Mount Carmel.
And just to talk a little bit more about the police state, and I appreciate you doing this interview, Mr. Clark. That is the dangerous part about it. Eisenhower, Kennedy, many others warned us about the military-industrial complex, and now since we've dominated the whole planet, they are now still selling fear, but now they're selling fear of the American people. They're making us the enemy.
Well, I think that's right. Our prison population in Texas is the worst of all in many ways. Just no free society tells people do what we say or we'll kill you.
Yes.
I mean that's the mentality of a police state.
Well, Mr. Clark, just a couple more questions. Again, Attorney General in the LBJ administration, and you also worked in the Kennedy and the
Carter administration?
I worked 8 years, Kennedy Johnson. I did one assignment, maybe two, for President Carter. The first one having to do with the hostages.
I was mistaken. I got up in front of the podium and got it mixed up. But the thing that I don't think that the American public realizes is that this military training is going on. What are some things that we can do to get this reversed, hopefully?
Well, I think we have to resist at every level. If you don't work at the national level, you can't expect the local level. I mean, after all, we're providing a lot of federal funds for the local level, and they love it.
And that brings control.
It brings control. It brings technology. It brings things they don't need, you know.
Infrared.
Who needed tanks out here? Yeah, you've got everything that billions and billions of dollars of research and development to provide the military are now being
It's going into civilian control. Have you seen Waco Rules of Engagement?
Sure.
It's horrifying, isn't it?
It's horrifying. The whole story is even more horrifying.
Sir, I didn't actually see this last year, but I heard about it reported in some of the alternative press. Is it true that last year you spoke about how the Trilateral Commission is running the country?
Well, I've criticized the Trilateral Commission for many years, but I don't really think the Trilateral Commission is running the country. I think
CFR?
I think the same people
control it.
The same people that run the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Trilateral.
Those are just front groups.
Sure. I mean, they're just
meeting houses.
They're organizations through which they implement their power, and it's an international group that maintains power through the multinational corporations and the media and all the rest.
Yes, sir. And wouldn't you say that now what you have is corporate socialism for them and slavery for us?
Well, you've got corporate wealth for them. They don't...
it's called stealing.
It could be called stealing, although it's stealing on such a grand scale that you'd have to call it grand larceny, I think. Well, propaganda is one of the main means they employ: demonization, fear of crime, and things like that. But every individual...
The Hegelian principle?
Every individual has an obligation to be involved in this struggle if you want to live free and want your children who come after to live free. You can't be a bystander. And right now we really risk this spread of militarization throughout the world that is endangering the poor everywhere. It's a desire to control by force. There's so many people and so much poverty, and there's so much technology that can destroy people that is being employed against people everywhere. The poor here, the poor nations abroad. So we have to work on slashing our military budget to the bare bones. It ought to be slashed 90%. We've got to cut back on all hardware for police. Police ought to serve the people, not be a force. It shouldn't be a paramilitary concept. It ought to be a social service concept that deals sensitively with the people. We have to deal with the basic problems. And while we have poverty, we're going to have the problems that poverty creates. Poverty is the mother of crime. Plato told us that 2,500 years ago, and it was pretty obvious then. It's pretty obvious now.
Yes.
I have one more speaker that I'd like to introduce, and he didn't even know he was going to talk here today. But it's the talk show host that put together the busload of people that came up from Austin, Texas. He's on radio station KJFK in Austin. Does a program called The Real Spin. His name is Alex Jones. Alex?
Well, it's hard to speak after Ramsey Clark, Attorney General. You hear what he was just telling you? There is a massive consolidation of local police departments under federal control, the Multi-Jurisdictional Task Force and the JTF-6, which is based at Fort Bliss, Texas. They wear black ski masks. They train in military tactics. And they are the big gun and the long arm of the IRS and the criminal system that is running this nation. Make no mistake, the murders of these people and these children was about one thing and one thing only. It was about terrorism against the American people. It was about testing and pushing the limits to see if the government could surround a group, if they could kill those people and burn it to the ground. Waco Rules of Engagement shows the automatic weapons fire as men and women tried to exit the back of the building. That's where most of the bodies were found, right in the edge. Hit squads, military black ops, the same ones that destroyed Oklahoma City, just like Hitler burnt the Reichstag in 1933. I mean, where is our country when
ex-attorney generals of the United States of America are here telling you that Reno and the rest of them and the Republicans and the Democrats are all the same people. I mean, it just makes my heart swell with pride that we do have people like Ramsey Clark and others and this whole crowd out here that is standing in defiance of tyranny. That's right. And I'll take a line from that movie, Braveheart. What would you give, dying in your bed all these years from now, to have just once stood up in defiance of tyranny, to put on the armor and to ride out on the field against the enemy? And violence is not the way to go. They are the ones that use violence. They are the ones that are dangerous. Amen. Understand that. We've got to use information like Waco Rules of Engagement. I mean, that documentary is so powerful because it doesn't exaggerate, it doesn't lie. For 3 hours, it lays out the information for you to see. And where is the mainstream media editing this information out? You have federal agents killing men, women, and children. They came that day and opened fire first. Helicopters came in and assaulted. And now we find out, and it's going to come out in the next documentary, and think about this, that they sent in death squads with breathing apparatus to kill those people inside because they couldn't have any witnesses of what really happened on the first day of the 51-day standoff. So we're dealing with murder. We're dealing with terrorism against the American people, and this is nothing new in the history of the world. Authoritarian regimes always seek to control the modes of finance, the printing of money, transportation, food production, you name it, it's all coming under federal control under the guise of environmentalism, which is nothing but a cult now. It's very, very serious. Somebody has got to stand up. More people have got to stand up. FEMA, under Senate Resolution 21, is building hundreds of concentration camps on military bases, set up for families, areas for men, areas for women with children, and areas for men who have families on the other side of the camp. And by the way, they have triple the guard towers, and I have played this many times on my television show. It's just out of control. I have congressmen on tape, Henry B. Gonzales and others, admitting this. Look at the world. And then I'm going to get off here because there's others who have a lot more to say than me. Hitler killed 40 million. The communists in Russia killed about 100 million. The communist Chinese, we're not sure, 100, 200 million. And it's still going on. We're buying slave goods from these people. They're moving into Long Beach Naval Base. Right. They're moving into the high desert of California at Victorville and Adelanto and building 20 mini-malls to bring in slave goods directly. This is a deindustrialization of our... And it is just sick what's happening to our country, and people have got to stand up against it if freedom is going to survive. And the plans are there, make no mistake, but don't be fearful. People that lay down. I mean, ask yourself, how did the Germans allow Hitler to come to power? They believed his propaganda. Most of the death camps were off in Poland. Keep it away, keep it on military bases, keep it behind closed doors. This is what's happening, make no mistake, and the mainstream media is going around. Last week in Austin, a mainstream media station went out and had reporters on the street asking, where will terrorists strike next? They're introducing this into the psychology. They're creating a new cosmology of fear and preparing people for terrorism. And I just want to warn you one more time. State-sponsored terrorism is the #1 brand worldwide. Oklahoma City was terrorism. What happened right here where I'm standing in Waco back in 1993 on April 19th was state-sponsored terrorism. It was a test to see if you'd lay down. And I'm telling you something, they're taken back now because their propaganda and their lies worked for a while, but you see that the polls are changing. More and more people are waking up to what's happening. So I want to challenge you to talk to 10 people a week, get them to see Waco Rules of Engagement. I have nothing to do with this documentary, but it's so incredibly powerful. You have got to get this and get it into congressmen's hands, your friends' hands, judges in your local cities, because this can be a revelation to the people of America, to the people that just want to be pragmatic, to the people that are just relativists and don't care as long as tyranny doesn't come knocking on their door. And I'll just paraphrase this. We've all heard the famous quotes and statements. When they came for the Jews,
They didn't come for me, so I left it alone. When they came for the Catholics, when they came for all these different groups, I stayed there. And finally, when they came for me, there was nobody left. This is the real deal. This is human history. This is not some foggy conspiracy theory. I have to tell you, 4 years ago, I thought what happened at Waco was wrong. But I believed a little bit of the propaganda. I thought, well, you know, this and that. And the more I studied this, the more I found out it's worse than even what Waco Rules of Engagement or Day 51 had to offer. And that's why I'm glad that they're coming out with a new documentary, because this is what it's going to take. It's going to take information to the public. Information is power. So stop reacting and start acting and stand up against this police state, or we're going into 100% taxation, 100% tyranny. And just because it's packaged sweetly and has a nice, flashy exterior, the interior is barbed wire and pure slavery. Thank you all for being here.
Should we play just a few minutes of the FBI guy again, or you just want to wrap it up?
I'd like to see a bit of that again. It's important to
Again, I want to thank you. I want to thank Mike. I want to thank Melissa. I want to thank Scott. I want to thank Jeff. I want to thank, what's the other guy's name? I'm brain dead here.
Scott, Jeff, you covered it all.
The guy Norman, yes, Norman.
Yeah, I apologize for that. We had problems with the website connection. And
there are so many people working hard, and I'm not going to make a call for volunteers. Get out there and do it yourself. Do something. Make your own newsletter. Do whatever it takes. And the people out there that have means, that think of themselves as part of the establishment, it's time for you to do your job out there, middle class. It's time for you to stand up, because you're being raped, you're being abused. The tax system is raising, the tax brackets are expanding. And one thing that scared me was the nightly news last night showed this FBI frontman, this soft soaker, more than they showed anybody else. And they kept saying mistakes were made, mistakes were made. No mistakes were made. Clinton wanted to flex his muscles. He was being called impotent back in '93. They went in there and they killed those people. They opened fire that day. Helicopters opened fire. They set the place on fire 51 days later, and now information is coming out that they actually went inside.
Hey, we got the clip of the news from last night.
Oh, we have the clip from the news. Let's go ahead and go to that.
Ask why. It's an image burned into the memory of America.
5 years ago today, fire consumed the Mount Carmel Center near Waco with 80 people inside. It was the tragic end to a 51-day standoff after federal agents tried to arrest David Koresh on weapons charges. In tonight's top story, KV24's Danny Hermosillo tells us now the Davidians have found some unlikely allies for their cause.
The tragic end to the Branch Davidian standoff still takes its toll among the survivors.
David Koresh, United States.
Sheila Martin and others remember these names as friends, children, and spouses.
Many times I think of it as like I've really been like in a continual funeral. It's like I've live it every day. I see the faces.
There's a new phase on the scene of the standoff. Mount Carmel now houses a museum that attracts those searching for the truth behind the tragedy. That search has drawn some unlikely supporters.
We have to engage in the struggle for the duration until the truth is known.
Former U.S. Attorney General Ramsey Clark now represents the surviving Davidians in their wrongful death suit against the government.
It's not a matter of taking sides. It's not the government against the people or the people against the government. It's the people's government working for the rights of the people.
That's where I recovered the majority of the bodies.
Ferris Rookstool also defends the Davidians.
All the women and children were kind of huddled up into this corner section there.
The former FBI agent recovered many of the bodies and gathered the evidence after the fire. He says the government mishandled the situation.
There were major mistakes made in this case, not only from the way things were handled, but the way things were negotiated and the way things were affected as in the form of trying to take control of the crime scene.
These 82 trees were planted as living memorials to the Branch Davidians killed during the standoff. And as they continue to grow, so does the myth surrounding the siege. But maybe in time there will be a blade of truth as to what really happened. In Waco, Danny Hermosillo, KV24 News.
4 ATF agents.
Okay, I want to close shop for this. I'm going to explain something to people. I want to explain this to the people out there. I want them to look in my eyes, because I'm not exaggerating when I tell you this. Did you hear them? The myth that surrounds it. the myth of Waco, and maybe someday a blade of truth will come about what really happened. You see, they'll never give you the information. Waco Rules of Engagement shows the government's own footage as they shoot those people and as the tanks drive in. And the new documentary coming out will document the Special Forces, Black Ops military squads, probably the same one that blew up Oklahoma City, went inside there and shot those people from the inside and the outside. Now we've got them shooting them from the outside. And that FBI agent gets up there who's a rude, surly slimeball off camera, and I'm an obnoxious freedom fighter on camera and a nice guy off camera. But what it comes down to is they're lying to you. They're placating you. They're subverting you. Why don't you get angry? KVUE24, you make me sick. You make me want to vomit. I wish you to come out with a report about how bad they were like you have for the last 5 years. It's wrong to come out now after new evidence and say, well, maybe someday we'll get some truth about the myth. Yes, we know what really happened. It's not a myth. Have anything to say, Steve?
Yeah, well, something that bothers me about this is this guy sits here and claims mistakes were made, mistakes were made. If mistakes were made, where are the indictments? I mean, if you or I made a mistake and accidentally killed 82 people, 33 of them women and children, where the hell would we be right now?
What they meant to happen, happened. They went in there professionally, held the media back 3 miles.
I think it was 5.
Yes, well, the German crew stayed at 3, and that's how they were able to get it with a telephoto lens. But nobody ever saw the back of the building, but thank God that the defense attorney snuck out the FLIR footage and got this in Waco Rules of Engagement, and the government is very angry. Now we're going to show you a quick clip one more time of me confronting the FBI agent, the soft soaker. You see, if I come over and rob your house, but then I come over and apologize once you find out, you might forgive me. We're not going to forgive them. There he is.
Slime balls over there talking about how Koresh had live hand grenades. I'm sorry, I watched the Senate hearings. I read the court transcripts. Those were paperweights, sir. He was over there acting like the good FBI agent that said there was some problems. Then the media began to get smart-mouth with me. And I got so angry I didn't even have some of my information, but I heard him over there lying, and I just had to tell him what I thought of him. Here is that actual confrontation.
You have live hand grenade with building that you recovered as well. Of course, right out here in front was where the
That didn't come out in the trial. You're some kind of provocateur. In fact, you're one of those FBI agents, aren't you?
Hey, we're in the middle of one of our interviews right now.
I don't personally. I don't give a damn.
Well, I don't give a damn about you either. So just
oh, yeah, you're not going to do anything to me. These people are murderers. These people are murderers. I'm sick and tired of hearing your lies when you machine gunned a bunch of men, women, and children. You got a big problem, buddy. You sit over here. I'm not afraid of you guys. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I'm sick of it. You sit over here and you talk about how the children huddled in the corner and how the ammunition that they had is what killed them, all the rest of your garbage. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You don't stand up for the Constitution. You stand for zip, not a zero. You have no calm aplomb. It's false, my friend. And let me tell you, a lot of people are writing down your names. You can follow people around. You can harass people. You can back up your bankster buddies. But a revolution of peaceful information's coming, and when it comes time, you people are going to be brought to punishment. Do you understand? Just like Nuremberg. Just taking orders doesn't cut it, my friend. You understand me?
I think I've assessed you.
Yeah, oh, you've assessed me. You listen, you can sit there and say some kind of little joke. All your textbook garbage, my friend. I got people like General Parton, ex-head of Air Force Weapons Development. We know the federal government destroyed Oklahoma. It's proven. We know what you guys are engaged in, just like Hitler burnt the Reichstag. We know you brought Nazis over here through the rat line to set up our CIA after the OSS. So you can't sit here. You can assess me all day. I want you to assess me. I've assessed you, a smiley-faced slime ball that sits here in soft pedals and tries to placate the media. Waco Rules of Engagement shows your agents machine gunning men, women, and children as they tried to exit. One of the inventors of FLIR technology, they didn't have 500,000 rounds of ammunition. I just talked to Clive Doyle.
Oh, okay. And Clive is the expert on the total number of pieces of ammo.
Yes.
Oh, he is?
Yes.
Well, Clive's the one that invited me here.
Well,
that is lie number 1. We talked to Clive Doyle, and he did not invite this gentleman there. Clive Doyle is one of the surviving Branch Davidians. And then lie number 2 is the fact that this FBI negotiator who was there during the 51 days sits up there and says sarcastically that, oh, Clive Doyle was the expert. You couldn't fit 500,000 rounds of ammunition in the small room above the storage area. This guy just sits up there and acts like Mr. Loving and Mr. Caring to the media, and it makes me want to vomit. A real FBI agent is somebody like Frederick Whitehurst, ex-head of the FBI crime lab, that left because of all types of corruption. Oh,
and one more point that we need to make about this, Steve, to everybody out there is, I later asked him, but I actually messed up putting the video on there, so we'll have that for you next week or something. Is I asked him, well, hey, if you're against this, how about indictments for the FBI agents and the secret black ops squads that shot the men, women, and children? Just like they shot Randy Weaver, a pregnant woman nursing a baby in Ruby Ridge, Idaho, in the head.
No indictments, though.
Yeah.
He wasn't for the indictments, was he?
Now tell us real fast what he talked about in person with you.
Well, they said that to you, this was all about entertainment. They were the ones sitting there laughing. They were the ones sitting there seemingly having a good time, standing at the very spot where 33 women and children were baked to death and suffocated from, he admitted, CS gas.
I wasn't laughing, but the news crew was laughing.
No, you were standing there fact after fact after fact. Some of them admittedly confused because you weren't prepared for that moment.
I walk up and he's going, Koresh had explosives, killed the children.
But to sit there and accuse Alex of saying this is all about entertainment to him, I know him personally. This is nothing about entertainment to Alex.
Look, David,
pathetic.
All of us, we all hate it. And David Koresh, the children didn't deserve to die, and the important point is David Koresh invited the sheriff in, and the sheriff says it on Waco Rules of Engagement, and the BATF twice. They came and pulled up and opened fire on those people. All right, that's the Freedom Report. Steve, good job. I want to thank the crew. My documentary is going to be done in the next few days, and I'll be much more rested, no more 14, 15, 16-hour days. Of course, the Freedom Report is every Monday night, and that is from 7 to 8:30 p.m. My show, Exposing Corruption, is tomorrow night from 8:30 to 11 p.m. I want to thank everybody, and remember, the information you're being given by the mainstream press is a lie. They want to talk about fables. They're the ones that are selling you a fable. They want to talk about patriots for profit. I don't get paid $7.5 million a year like Tom Brokaw or Peter Jennings. I'm putting my life on the line to bring you this information, to stand up to bullies and thugs. And there's nothing worse than a soft soaker. I wouldn't have screamed at an FBI agent that was being honest. Okay, guys. I'll see you tomorrow night, 8:30, Channel 10. Thanks a lot to everybody, and thank you, Steve Lane.
Thank you, Alex.
Good job.
Well, hello, folks. Mike Hanson here from Mike Hanson Archives again. I hope you enjoyed that Alex Jones, Steve Lane Freedom Report. I thought it was a real good show. Now get ready for Alex confronting newscasts about Alex confronting Janet Reno here in Austin, Texas, about 2 years after what you just saw. So what I'd like to ask you for your help again, we have an organization called Gonzales Association of Patriots that helps out underprivileged people here, people that are less fortunate here in Gonzales, Texas. Watch this segment coming up, and then we'll have the newscast after that. But watch this and donate. Don't just watch it. Please, folks, donate to the GoFundMe that's below, right here, below you right there. It's really a help. Our goal was $5,000, and I think we got, what do we got in there, $499 now? So we're real far off of that goal. So just watch it if y'all can. It's right now as I'm speaking here, it's $499. Let's see how far we can get that up. Okay, here is Gonzales Association of Patriots, our nonprofit organization where we help where we can here in Gonzales, Texas. All right, thanks a lot and God bless.
Tell him thank you and God bless him.
Okay.
Bye.
a organization. It's only here in Gonzales. Somebody's trying to get by. Go back a little bit. We have an organization here, a nonprofit organization. It's Gonzales Association of Patriots. But every month we do something really good for some lucky person or people. And when we had the hurricane down there, boy, did we, that was a lot of money. We usually don't go out of Gonzales, but that was a little bit, to see those people in the trailer parks and stuff really hurting and stuff, we went down there and helped them.
Okay.
And but we're going to help a real nice elderly lady. She barely makes her bills, Peggy, so I know she's going to be appreciative of the $100 that we're going to give her. And so let's go over and surprise her. We've already mowed her yard, so she'll probably tell you thank you about that. But then we're going to surprise her.
Okay, great.
Here's what you're getting this month.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right there. It's awarded by, because I know you need help with your food and everything else. So that's from the Gonzales Association Patriots. We always try to do something good for somebody every single month. We try to.
I love you, Mike. I love everybody. Thank you.
Well, there you go.
Everybody.
Buy what you want with it. Buy you something nice once in a while.
I love you, Mike.
Yeah.
God bless you.
You know, people donate money to us, and that's how we get this money.
Thank you.
So if anybody, wants to know more about our organization, we're here in Gonzales, Texas at P.O. Box 481.
Thank y'all very much, and God bless everybody that helps people around that are in need. God bless y'all.
Okay, we'll see you next time, Peggy.
Que pase buen día, señora.
Gracias.
All right, folks, this is what we do, help people out. So, we got 7 couches we're giving away to people that really need them. We just gave 2 to a lady. Has about 5 kids, no furniture. We're fixing to take one over to the senior citizens place. But they're really nice couches. They're a little dusty from being in the warehouse, but they all have those beds in them. Look how nice that bed is. We owe that lady 1 cushion. I think we're probably gonna have a couple left. If you're in Gonzales, Texas, and you're in really need of it's more of a love seat. More of a love seat with a bed in there. Hey, y'all got 2?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hit me up if you need one. Stay tuned right here for more classics.
What I have tried to do is to make sure that I chose somebody of impeccable reputation who has total independence as far as I'm concerned, and I have recused myself from the consideration.
Before the speech, these Central Texas protesters went to Reno, demanded to know more about Reno's handling of the Branch Davidian case. They handed out flyers demanding that the government release more information about what happened at Waco.
We want to educate people about the unanswered questions that continue under the Attorney General's term of office here. We're trying to let the folks know that she hasn't been forthcoming about a lot of very crucial matters regarding Waco.
Former First Lady Lady Bird Johnson and her daughters were on hand for this evening's speech.
Don't we have 2
Attorney General Janet Reno spoke with confidence
police.
and conviction about creating a better place for the nation's children.
If we're going to problem solve, we should start at the beginning. But then we leave out too many young, fine people who can make a marvelous contribution in this world.
Before a packed house at the LBJ Auditorium, she spoke of parenting, child care, and the importance of education, and stressing the need to break the cycle of violence.
Domestic violence in any form is unacceptable, and we can make a difference if we solve the problem up front.
Before her speech, a small group of protesters claimed the Attorney General had a problem of her own to deal with.
We'd like to hear her tell the truth about what happened at Waco in 1993.
After her speech, the Attorney General agreed to 20 to 25 minutes worth of questions, which turned out to be almost an hour's worth. The folks who protested outside had their opportunity inside.
When are you finally going to come clean about the mass murder and using high-level special operations killers to kill Americans for publicity?
Are you going to indict the tank drivers and the commanders?
Reno refused to comment on the Waco incident, saying she does not comment on pending matters. Mark Johnson, KIWitness News.
My friends, you know there's a serious problem in this country. Now it's time to take action. And to do that, you'll need real solutions, not phony crises created by the federal government. All across the nation, there are ways for you to get involved. One of those solutions to educate and mobilize the public is access television. That's where I got my start 7+ years ago in Austin, Texas. The entire town, all those that have cable, are able to watch the show. We've changed the minds of literally tens of thousands of Austinites. You can make TV. You can get involved. It's a lot easier than you think. Believe me.
Well, media is power. I've said that 100 times. And you've got to have access to some form of media to reach the general public if you're going to affect change. And the enemy knows that. And that's why they've got a stranglehold on it. That's why I talk about information war. You've got to get involved in the information war, and micro FM radio is the place to be.
Everyone has an FM radio in their car or their home, and because of the low cost, it's springing up across the nation. Tens of thousands of low-power transmitters are serving their communities with powerful information and energizing the nation. Another tool that has the globalists and control freaks on the run is the internet. My site, after 14 months of operation, now receives 9 million visitors a month. I suggest everyone get involved. But if you're not computer savvy, you can at least make copies of my documentaries and air them on Access Television. Give them to your friends, your family, your neighbors. Show them to your church or your school. It's all about educating the public and becoming your own press, America. The Achilles heel of the establishment is their enforcers. If you can educate police about the reality of what's happening, most of them will not want to go along with this criminality. You can also educate the public by calling into commercial AM and FM radio shows. And of course, if you see wrongs in your community, right them. Be leaders in your community. When a World War II veteran was going to have his home bulldozed by the city, we built him a new house. They destroy it, we rebuild it. Kind of reminiscent of Waco back in 1993. We thought what happened there was horrible, and we brought forward the evidence. And then we decided to go ahead and rebuild them a new church. And guess what? People from around the country got involved, and we were able to build them a new church. That's the volunteer spirit. And whenever tyrants come into your town or city, it's important to confront them, whether they're politicians or bureaucrats.
Over 4 years ago, I was interviewing former and current CIA officials about the Delta Force murdering people at Waco. They were extremely concerned. That's now been borne out in the Dallas Morning News and other publications. When are you finally going to come clean about the mass murder and using high-level special operations killers to kill Americans for publicity? Very important. Number one, about the Delta Force. Number two, Senator John Danforth, your special counsel. How can he be independent, as you and others have said, when he is appointed by you to investigate you? That's the questions. Thank you.
The crowd giggled and laughed, and Reno refused to answer the question. Makes you proud to be an American.
This is what I live for. Yeah.
Long live the Constitution! God bless America, and death to the New World Order! We shall, we must, and we will prevail, because we're willing to stand up against what's happening. God bless the Republic and the United States, and death